Oh, what episode is this? Episode 10?
Oh, fuck. Good. Let me check. 1 minute.
In case you guys weren't aware, we're actually talking about ADHD today.
This is a recurring theme. This is episode 10, Joy.
I was right, I just wasn't sure. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the AyeSphere, season 2. My name is Joy.
And I'm I. And today I think we've got, to be honest, this is one of our really broad topic days. We've narrowed down one big one that we can talk about. The rest will be tangents and fuckery. We're going to be talking about love, death and robots.
We are, because you mentioned it on Tuesday when we were playing Raft, and yes. I went on a complete rewatch. So I only got through the first season. It was good. Yeah,
so you've rewatched all of season 1. So we'll kind of keep it to season 1 today. But I suppose spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Love, Death, Robots, because we will talk about as many of the episodes as we kind of can. And then other things, I'd like to talk, there's a bit of ADHD that we want to talk about. There's a bit of, content
Shocking everyone. We're going to talk about ADHD and content creation.
And then, to be honest, I would really like to touch on the game showcase as well. And to be honest, I'm going to do it first because I need to get it out of my system. But Bethesda absolutely nailed that. I mean, I think Xbox nailed it in general. I think they did quite a lot of big titles. So obviously Starfield was mentioned. Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Fable, which I hate, but Fable is going to be coming. Someone will like that. Star Wars Outlaws looked really cool. Open world Star Wars game.
Good, actually. From what I saw, it looked good.
Yeah, Cyberpunk DLC, City Skylines 2. Fuck yeah, let me drown my city in, the sewage that I store in the hill above.
Oh, no.
There's one set on a Scottish oil rig, a horror game called Still Wakes the Deep. Which, I saw that and I was like, I am all in, sign me the fuck up, we will go to town on that. And... yeah, there was a bunch of others. One of them looked very Bioshocky. There was it was called Clockwork Revolution, and it did. It looked like it could have been Bioshock 4, but it wasn't.
Probably better.
Yeah, and then there's a bunch of other stuff. I think Fallout 76 got DLC, but Fallout 76 sucks ass. And a lot of I think Persona 3 Reloaded, the remaster of it was announced. And then, Overwatch 2 content, which I kind of, meh.
Lemon scented neurotoxin in the chat just said, Starfield looks suspiciously good. I have to agree. It did look suspiciously for a Bethesda game.
Right, so this is where I think they've nailed it, right? Because the last Starfield trailer that we saw, I was really I'm not sure how I feel about it. The combat looked really clunky. It didn't look quite there yet. And then everything that they showed today looked class. I think if they deliver on that, deliver on the sandbox, which allows you to do all that stuff, I think it'll be cool. I reject all of your cynicism. Clown makeup is on. We are fucking doing this. I'm telling you,
hope. Good.
Fallout 76 is an outlier. Bethesda doesn't fucking miss, except with Fallout 4, Skyrim Anniversary Edition, Fallout 3. There's a bunch. But I generally think Bethesda's gonna nail this because it'll be picked up by the modding community that'll do all kinds of wacky shit. I think one thing that I've always said by Bethesda, they create a really good platform for lots of people to then inject themselves into their game. I mean, Joy, how many hours have you got in Skyrim? You've played Skyrim a shit ton.
I've played it for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Right? and like I've got more playthroughs of like Fallout 4 and attempted playthroughs of Fallout 4. Like I think again, I think that's part of Bethesda's jive. I think they do a good job with it. I think they get us hyped with all this stuff. Everyone buys it, and then the modding community just takes it over the line.
So on basic Skyrim, I have 1,030.8 hours, and on special edition, I have that doesn't look right. 2,000? I'm sure it's more than that. I think it's because Mothman and I share Steam accounts, so I think I might have played it on his account as well. But yeah, 3,000 hours roughly-ish. And most of it modded.
Yeah. That's 125 days, Joy.
Yeah. and I'll play more.
Exactly.
Play more.
So yeah, like honestly, as I think there will be a lot of people who are really skeptical about it, but I was impressed with what I saw, and I think
I want them to get it out the door. I want it to be great because I want them to start working on the next Elder Scrolls game. That's what I want.
Yeah,
they've been teasing me with Elder Scrolls 6 for God knows how long.
Yeah, they've not even started yet, Joy. You'll be waiting another 17 years for that. But no, I think they'll do a good job with it. Like I genuinely think they'll do a good job with it.
It looks good. It does look good. Like it looks as if they've taken their time with it. It will obviously have glitches because the glitches are a Bethesda feature, not a fault. But I think it will be genuinely fun to play from what I've seen of it.
So if you have a chance after this, Joy, before you have to go to your parent-in-laws tonight, what you can do is you can watch. They did a Starfield Direct, and they put the Adoring Fan in the game. The Adoring Fan makes a comeback, and they made a joke in the Direct about shooting him in the face. And I think that's what sold me. And I was like, if I get to shoot the Adoring Fan in the face, game of the year. Like it like the moment I saw him, I was like, that's the Adoring Fan. And then you saw the character title, and it like his name is Adoring Fan in the game.
The Adoring Fan.
And I was like,
that's
like what, like the in joke. The in joke was, in game, you'd climb to the top of like a space mountain overlooking this like landscape, and you put a shotgun to the back of his head. And I was like, you know what? Fuck yeah, let's do it. So yeah, I'm glad that they've got this kind of like ability to laugh at themselves for the Adoring Fan,
which is why I think they survive so well.
Yeah.
And it's just that I think the Skyrim remakes are just kind of a meme at this point. I think they're also doing it for the bit at this point. But it's they do make solid games. The fact that Skyrim is a 12-year-old game. Is it 12 years old this year?
Yeah,
longer than that.
So. Yeah, maybe.
The fact that people still replay it, the fact people are still modding for it, shows you that it's a solid game. Like Blue Lights was saying in the chat, like they only play vanilla and they love it. I will also play vanilla. I just like my mods because I like the characters. I love the character creation I can have with the mods. And I also love mods that don't make me go through the start again. That's my main mod is don't go through the start. I don't want to wake up at the cart anymore. It's been 12 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was one thing, like because they went through character creation and everything like that as well. So you saw everything in the showcase, like ship customization. Like one of the women was talking about how like she makes all of her ships look like animals. So she had like a platypus ship, and she made like a spider ship and like, you know, mechs with arms and stuff. It's just like silliness. And yeah, I don't know. I'm fully on board. I was like kind of cautious up until now. Clown makeup is on, Joy. We are locked and loaded. Game of the year.
The big honky nose is on. We're good. Yeah.
Like
it looks good. I'm excited. There are a lot of games this year that I'm really excited for, and the ones that I saw for a lot of indie stuff coming out this year. I'm enjoying this kind of like the hopepunk apocalypse stuff that's coming out. I'm really actually intrigued by that, because a lot of apocalyptic games up until this point have always been everything's hopeless, it's just a shooter, and those games have their place and they are fun, but I'm really enjoying the games which are like the one you did the charity stream with, where you are bringing like plants and water and what was that called? Terra Nil.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of games that are, we are rebuilding after the apocalypse, let's make things nice. Like Aftermath is another one where you literally build a nuclear processing facility to get rid of the nuclear waste, and then you can start, like, in a couple of decades you can start growing food again. Like there's this real shift towards, you know, hope. The apocalypse happens, it's awful, but we're going to rebuild and we're going to do it together as a community. And it's a real shift away from the lone survivor apocalypse genre to the community survival. We're going to grow plants. Like, and I'm like, that's actually pretty good for my mental health. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you even see that in like Raft that we've been playing. Like Raft has a lot of that as well. And I think I'm wondering if it maybe speaks to the kind of political situation that we're in, like kind of the global geopolitical landscape of war and famine and pandemic and all the rest is like we're seeing games that started development during that time now starting to be like, oh, well, I don't really want to make a game about the most depressing, like, apocalyptic scenario ever, because I can get that outside, you know?
I can literally in New York right now, you can go outside and it looks like the end of days. It looked like that here for a while because we were getting all the Canadian smoke as well. And you were going outside and you're like, oh, it smells like burning. Everything's orange. You can see Canada on the horizon, and it's just like, I'm texting all my friends, like, are you okay? And then I come inside, I shut everything over, turn my purifiers on. I'm going, this is some sort of dystopian nightmare that in the 90s there would have been like a cartoon about it, and all the adults would have been like, we'll never let it get to that. Look at us, we're already healing the ozone. And now I'm an adult and I'm like, you fuckers. You didn't do anything.
Bastards. Yeah. But I mean, I do think that's kind of like, imagine, Frostpunk 2, we're apparently getting news on soon.
News today, supposedly. So if the news drops in the middle of the stream, we're dropping everything.
Joy, that's you do understand that's going to happen. I think like the PC game showcase is like in half an hour or something.
Yeah.
So we can have.
I'm aware. I have the tab
up and muted. Yeah, if you find long stages of us just looking at the screen and this is why we need to be able to do stuff like this live, Joy. We need to get like maybe a new AyeSphere podcast screen done with your floating heads, and we've got like
we can show people stuff.
A screen in the middle, because it'd be cool to watch. But I mean, Frostpunk 2. I just want some Silksong news, you know? That's something I would love.
I am desperate for Manor Lord, because they went from coming soon to 2023, and I have been desperate for that game since 2017. I have waited for this almost as long as I waited for the new Skyrim, the new Elder Scrolls.
That's the one where you're both like planning, like you're basically doing a city builder, but you're also then doing the military aspect of that, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, and you can also go into first person and wander around your village and talk to people and do. I played the demo, and it was honestly the most fun I've had since I was in my teens playing Stronghold 2.
Right.
It has the Stronghold 2 kind of vibe of watching everything grow, but it's got modern graphics. When he released it, he's like, oh, it's early access, there's still some bugs. And I'm going, there are AAA games that do not run as smoothly as this. That are not as fun as this. What are you doing? But he's a single developer, and he's just like, it's a labor of love for this guy.
Yeah.
And he's just painstakingly doing each bit, and it is so good and so promising. I'm so desperate for it. Just absolutely. Good. As soon as it goes live, you're not going to see me for like a week. I'm going on holidays. I'm taking time off.
I reckon it could be October then. That'd be nice.
Probably.
I do like how there's phases of like the year. Like I seem February February used to not be that big in the game world. It used to be like the pre-Christmas period was like the big one, but now we get like stuff filtering through kind of both sides of the year, which is nice. But yeah, I think that'll be good. Hopefully we get some Frostpunk 2 news. Have you seen what I'm not sure if it's the same studio or if it's the same publisher, but they're creating something called The Alters. And it's by the Frostpunk folk, I think.
I might have done.
It's like, as far as I'm aware, the premise is it's like multiple clones of one guy.
Yes,
I saw they announced it, and then it's like it's been quiet. I've not heard anything since a trailer was pushed. But that looks quite fun. I'm trying to think what other stuff will actually be in the PC showcase. Nah, I don't know. I can't think off the top of the head what it's going to be there, unless there's like more Armored Core stuff, if the FromSoft side of things. But yeah, I'm glad that it's a kind of shame that E3 doesn't exist anymore, because I quite used to like the whole E3 thing, and I think
E3 was fun. I enjoyed watching everything coming out and just having stuff to look forward to. I
miss the fucking clown show on stage. You know when the gamer uniform of the gaming tee and then the suit jacket came on, and then there would be really poor attempts at in-jokes with the audience and all this sort of crap. I used to live for that, and I suppose when I was younger I really wanted to go to E3 just once. It would have been amazing. And now we get quite a lot of these virtual kind of things, everyone's got their own showcase, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping that we get to see some more stuff, but we'll have to wait and see. I will try and get the PC gaming showcase up on my side, just so we can maybe see some stuff. But yeah,
literally, if they announce Frostpunk, we're switching whatever we're talking about.
Yeah. So, oh fuck, sorry, no. Mute that. So I'm trying to think what other news that happened this year. Yes, I will take a drink, thank you. That's Twitch chat telling us both to hydrate.
Taken to hydrate.
So one of the things that happened this week, which, Joy, I think I told you about this, and your immediate reaction was, what? But Activision and Call of Duty and Pride.
Oh my god.
And so a content creator, a guy called, I think Nick Merckx is his name, has this deal with the Call of Duty folk who do Warzone and all that kind of shit. And he decided to put out some rubbish about shit, it was almost like a protect the children. He saw that there was people who were protesting Pride at school, and he put out a tweet saying leave the kids alone, that kind of thing. So Activision decided to pull his operator skin, which I'm guessing he's worked with Activision to offer a paid cosmetic in the game, and he'll receive some of the revenue. Or so. I don't quite know how it works, but it was his operator skin has been removed, and it's basic what that's done is just showcase the absolute worst of there's the gaming community like us who really like our indies and like AAAs and like anything that isn't we play games other than Call of Duty, but there is a whole bunch of people who have never fucking set foot outside that bubble, and they only play Call of Duty and maybe FIFA, right? And that is their two games, and that is all they do, and it's just been a giant clusterfuck ever since.
What I appreciated, because I went and looked it up after you told me about it, was Activision actively going, no, we are celebrating Pride with our LGBT co-workers and fans. Yeah. That is their stance. And that is pretty bold for Activision has a kind of shitty history with some things, but that's a pretty bold thing when you have other big conglomerates and corporations pulling all their Pride stuff in retaliation to pushback.
Yeah, it was good of them.
I'm not saying I stand Activision, but I do appreciate the fact that they did not back down.
Yeah, and I hope they don't, because what it seems to have kind of triggered is so this guy's friends, who are all also Call of Duty creators, are now requesting that their operator skins get removed from from the game as well. I kind of hope Activision goes, no, you have to be a bigot publicly in order for us to do it. And anyway, it's turned out that the guy's like a proper like DeSantis supporter, and people are like pulling out his tweets, and of course he's got opinions about Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff that like really
charming individual, really.
Yeah,
just someone a swell guy who you would absolutely never invite to your house.
Yeah, it's like, if any, like, you could have just stayed quiet. you
could have literally just kept your mouth shut, and you could have enjoyed your Call of Duty revenue or whatever the fuck you get. Yeah. But now everyone knows you're a cunt.
It's funny because like I saw people going, today I cancelled my sponsorship with Call of Duty, and it costs me it's worth $4,500 to me, and I've cancelled it. And someone pulled up their like one of their tweets from like a couple of weeks ago that was like, oh, I've lost my job and my kids are getting taken away and stuff, and they were like, sounds like you need that 4.5k.
It's getting dragged for filth.
You fool. But that's been like, I suppose that's been a kind of like wee thing that's happened in the creator world. But I think that's like, there's obviously been this big conversation about Twitch as well, that's been kind of going on.
Yeah.
And I err on the side of Twitch purely on account of all of the other platforms are terrible. Like Kick in particular, which everyone is like, oh, I'm leaving Twitch to go to Kick. Like, Kick is literally funded by like crypto casinos, and they have basically, they're waving the flag at like being a shelter for all the people who've been like permabanned on Twitch. So like, why on earth would I want to go there? It's like they're going to pull all of their community, which are no doubt, if they're happy to continue watching them after being bigots here, like why the hell would I want to expose any of like the folk in our Twitch chat to that anyway?
To me, it's Twitch is obviously owned by Amazon. To me, it is, well, why do you keep using Kindle to publish your work if they're evil? And it's because I don't have any alternatives that are, I have alternatives, but people don't fucking use them.
Yeah.
And the other alternatives are funded by like Christo fascists who are like, we want pure fiction and they don't want my LGBT stuff. And it's just
dear. That's
Amazon. There's a known. His name is Cecil. There's a known bigot on, or is it Cecil? No, it's Carlos. Sorry, apologies to anyone named Cecil. It was Carlos, who is a censor at Amazon at KDP Publishing. Don't publish your stuff on the weekends, or don't try to, because he knocks everything back because he's a bastard. So just do it from Monday through Friday and you're usually fine. But that's like a known issue, and you can normally get around it by just resubmitting. It's just one fucker that has like control of the censor buttons for the US Kindle over the weekend.
Damn.
So, but that's what it is. Like, everyone within the community is like, yeah, we use Amazon because like there's not really like a viable option. Like I have hoped that Kobo Plus, now that it's gone global, will actually be a decent rival to Kindle subscriptions. I fully hope that will take off and put a fire under Amazon, but it requires people to move away from it in the same way it would require your audience to move from Twitch.
Yeah. And
the thing is, we don't want them to move necessarily because they're going to the place that's been like, we take all the people that have been banned.
Yeah.
Great.
It's like, why would I want to take all these good people over to like the hell platform? It doesn't sense. I'm not going anywhere. I know that some folk have like said, some people heard saying they'll go to YouTube or whatever, but
YouTube's just as bad.
I've not heard anything good about YouTube.
I mean, I have a lot of I have a couple of friends that do streaming on YouTube, and that they're constantly getting demonetized because they swear.
Yeah.
Or because they're talking about LGBT content, or they're talking about sex education, not even like sexual content, just like, these are your rights, these are your, like, stuff like that, and they just get demonetized. It's like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
If that's where you're trying to get income from.
Yeah. I mean, another one, like, I know quite a few people who are Twitch ambassadors, and they have quite good relations with Twitch, and they're like basically after all of this stuff has happened, they're saying that like talks with Twitch are going quite well. Like there was a bit of a wake up call. So now like Twitch ambassadors are really getting involved as like what's best for the kind of platform, which is nice and what like all you can really hope for and expect. But yeah, that's what's been going on in like kind of streamer or creator territory. Has there been anything new in the book drama world that I want to know?
Drama, but my friend's new book, the pre-order did just drop on Friday, and
awesome.
It's Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Brina. And I had it all over my Tumblr on Friday. I'll reblog it later. But yeah, her stuff's coming out. Finally, she tried for 2 years to sell this story, 2 years to sell to TradPub, and it was always there's not really a market for it. Whereas meanwhile, TradPub is churning out countless fairy cottagecore romances with white women. But of course, my friend Anna's book is all about Black empowerment and finding your power through knowledge and like finding your own people. And no, there's just no market for it. So Anna's finally gone indie pub with the rest of us, and yeah, she's coming out September 5th. It's a really I was the proofreader. Full disclosure, I was the proofreader. I was so enthralled by it, I continued to work on it whilst I was in hospital because I was enjoying it that much. Awesome. I was in for not nice reasons, and I was in a lot of pain, but I kept reading because I was enjoying it so much. So it's a really good book. I hope it gets the success it deserves. That TradPub did not want to give it, so that's a kind of common theme. There was some follow-up drama from that Pollyanna Brown that we were talking about.
You said.
She's suing people.
Oh dear.
Or she's claiming to sue people. Tristan actually did a rundown of why she's using even more scammer type, like kind of grifter language. Like her whole thing is like, if these people come for me, they can come for you. And it's like, why would they come for you? You're not breaking the law. You are. Like,
yeah, funny that.
Yeah, but she's like, anyone talking about me is going to get a cease and desist from my lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, and we can pretty much ignore that because we're not saying anything untrue. We're saying the truth. We're saying everything that can be documented back to your channel. You hiding the videos doesn't mean we never saw them and we didn't screen grab them. So if we do get a DMC, if we get a proper takedown, we will have to take it down probably, but then we can also just re-upload it with context of this is, but I also covered our asses on that episode.
I'll put a title screen that's just like, this is our opinions.
This is our opinion. This is all alleged, even though we have a paper trail that goes back to 2015. But yeah, she's still all over the place, and she's gotten more traction for being a grifter than she has for any of her author stuff. But she's fully framing herself as, if these people can come for me, they can come for you. And it's like, they're not going to come after someone just selling their indie romance novel unless they're actively having a scam like you are. Like, fucking Neil Gaiman doesn't charge $3,000 a month for his courses. It's $23 a month for his courses through Masterclass.
Yeah.
What makes you think you have the right to charge $1,000, $3,000?
Nuts.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Sorry, we were saying that we both had the PC gaming show up beside us.
Yes.
I have the live chat, and at the moment, everyone in the live chat is just inserting the word Gollum into life
I'm
is
scared.
Life is Gollum, True Colors, Gollum World, Rise of Gollum 2, Gollum 3 Wild Hunt, like Gollum in the Blind Forest. I'm guessing that's the meme for this.
I've just seen it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That Gollum game looks fucking cursed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if anyone's excited, but it looks cursed.
It's out and it's terrible. It's been voted like worst game of the year, which is actually really sad because like, I mean,
poor Gollum.
To be honest, there's actually there's a wee bit to discuss here as well. One, I do not understand the thought process that went into, we're going to make a Lord of the Rings game. What character does everyone want to play?
Gollum.
Yeah, what the fuck? But yeah, there's...
Well, it's like all the kind of the Disney remakes where everything's being told about, the kind of girl bossing all the villains. And it's like, you've literally there are fresh ideas you could be using, and yet you are scraping the barrel. You do not have to justify your villains. Some people can just be villains.
I would 100% have a Gollum girl boss game. I would take that over what we got.
Yeah.
Why Gollum pick anyone else? Exactly. There's nobody is attracted to playing as Gollum. And like, see if they'd made it a total gritty game where it's like you're Gollum, you're escaping from Barad-dûr, you're like, you have to fucking kill like orcs with your bare hands and, you know, like stealth your way in. Like, you know, I would understand that, but this is like Gollum doing chores in prison. I'm not joking. Yeah. Gollum.
Curse sentence. Gollum breeding pit, no. Like, what fucking Omegaverse fanfic is it based on? Seriously.
Gollum gets milked in HD.
Oh no!
in HD 4K. It's horrendous.
My poor Gollum. We just dropped 20 viewers when you said that. People just were like, nope.
I've had enough. Right, so I suppose we better talk a wee bit about Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah,
we can have an emotional and physical cleanse of all that, and we'll talk
palate cleanser.
Love, Death and Robots. So, for anyone in chat who doesn't know, Love, Death, Robots is like a series. It's on Netflix, and it is a bunch of shorts. It's basically like short animated films that all touch on these things. Some people compare it to a Black Mirror. I don't think it's as depressing as Black Mirror. There are some, like, I'd say it leans a lot more sci-fi, but more of like far future sci-fi as opposed to this kind of like dystopian near future sci-fi that I think Black Mirror kind of hits.
It still leans into some of the tropes from Black Mirror. It's still very dystopian in places, but there's also a sense of wonder in it that is lacking in Black Mirror. There's still a sense of very much, you know, the humans build robots. That is a good, you know, it's like the kind of like, you know, the idea that we build robots and we send them out into space with names like Opportunity and Spirit and, you know, stuff like that. It's still very much the core of humanity is good. It's just sometimes bad things can happen and things are fucked up. Like, I was, before this, I was watching the, you know, the episode about the farmers on a alien planet. Yes. And they have all these giant mecha things to go fight these insects to try and salvage their community as they're on this alien planet trying to harvest stuff. And it was very much kind of like Pacific Rim meets Farm Simulator. It was very weird. And I could see Black Mirror doing that is totally humanity's been defeated by these insects and we're just like barely surviving. But the end of, you know, the difference between that and, you know, Death, Love and Robots is it ends almost hopeful even when there's tragedy, because there's still the sun comes up and there's still people that survive and they get to continue to find a way to live. And it's not like, you know, completely, it's not grimdark. It's not like fatalistic in the way that Black Mirror is. Yeah. Because Black Mirror is very much like, here is all the worst pieces of humanity portrayed, even if they did predict David Cameron fucking a pig. You know, it's, they say it as like, oh well, it's satire and it's parody and everything, but it's all the worst parts of us. And I can understand why some people don't like it. I find Black Mirror to be quite depressing. I don't find Death, Love and Robots to be depressing, because it does have that kind of, even when it's dealing with very nitty-gritty topics, it's still visually beautiful. It's still visually interesting. There's still a sense of whimsy about some of it.
I think one of my favourite things about Love, Death and Robots is like the different animation styles between the shorts as well. Yes. I think that adds a lot to it, whereas like I think all Black Mirror is just real life, right? Like, whereas this you get to kind of play around, and the animation, like some of the animation is stunning. Like it's really, really like impressive.
Yeah. And it'll sometimes switch in scenes. Yeah. So there's one really interesting episode called The Witness. Yes. If anyone's going to watch it, it does contain sexual themes of, you know, very graphic kind of like murder and rape, basically. It does have warnings on the individual episodes. Yeah. But you switch between an almost like cyberpunkish animated style versus stop motion versus live action.
And there's a bit of comic book stuff in there as well, because there's like the bang and the pow and stuff. It's really cool.
And it changes between scenes. Like if there's a scene where there's this young kind of she's like a exotic dancer or whatever, and she's running away from like a scene that she's witnessed. As she runs, if she bangs into things, it changes the visual style you're seeing. So 1 minute it'll be hyper realistic, and then if she runs into something, it'll turn cartoony, and then if she knocks over a crate, it'll turn into something else. And it's a really interesting way of showing the transitions instead of just this kind of like jump scare type thing. And
it all happens in quite quick succession as well. So she's running down a corridor and she's tripping over one thing, and then she hits the wall on the other thing, and it's like she does. It's quite fast how it changes. But yeah, I suppose we could actually start with talking about The Witness, because The Witness is quite a good one. Like it kind of features this young woman who looks out of her window and basically sees someone getting murdered in the apartments opposite her. And the guy then looks at the window and sees that she's witnessed this happening. And then this kind of begins this mad dash through the city, and you see all of the kind of it's quite a surreal city. It's like, you know, massive tenement kind of flats and neon advertising and all this kind of stuff.
What cyberpunk wanted to be. Yeah. It's what this, you know, it's very kind of like high rise, very kind of futuristic, kind of the what's it called, Blade Runner-esque. Yeah, and the dancers, you know, it's really interesting because I thought she was a robot at first, because when you look over, when she sees it, the person that he's fighting with looks like her.
Yeah.
And then she looks over and sees that he's killed someone. She doesn't see it's someone that looks like her, so I'm going, oh, she must be a robot. She must be some sort of like thing, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, because she goes through this chase and she ends up at the club that she works at, which is this very exotic dancer, tits out
BDSM tits out club. Yeah,
everyone's in like leather, and the guy who's chasing her gets in, and you know, people are kind of grabbing him and like try to like hold him down on this chair, and he's trying to like resist ejaculating everywhere. And then she escapes from that, and this kind of thing proceeds. She ends up going to whoever runs the club, who's like asleep, and she ends up getting his gun to try and defend herself. And this like massive chase just continues. The guy's shouting at her like, "Oh wait, don't! Let's talk.
I just want to talk." And you're like, "Yeah, of course you do." So you can kill someone else that looks just like her.
Yeah, and then it kind of ends in an apartment. She flees into an apartment building. She opens up a door to get into a specific apartment, and then like he bursts in and a fight ensues, and she ends up killing him in the struggle. And she then looks out the window and sees that someone who looks like him has just witnessed her killing him.
And the chase starts again. It's almost like Groundhog Day, like murder-esque, sort of like weird dystopian kind of like, oh, this is like your worst nightmare. Like you can never actually escape what is happening.
Yeah, and it's I quite liked it as an episode. And like again, I think the kind of beauty of these ones is they are just like microcosms. You desperately, I wish that idea would be explored more, but like it does put an end to it.
The thing is though, all the episodes are about 10, maybe 12 minutes long max, and it feels like you get an entire movie. It's so well done. For short media, it is so well done. It is so concise. You get so much information in the first 30 seconds. Yeah. And then it all gets wrapped up neatly within the 10 minutes. There's never an episode where you're thinking, oh, that was only half done. That needed another episode. There's always a, very concise, and it's hard to do that sort of concise storytelling. It is very, very difficult. Yeah. And the fact that they're able to do it across such a range of mediums is, as a creator, it's mind-boggling. Like, there's no way I could do that.
it's really impressive how each of the stories is like so condensed and so like you don't think that there's any like strained bits. Like it's like distilled into the absolute finest that's going to be in that story. Joy, do you have like a top 3 of season 1? I want to see if we ours compare.
So I really like the first episode when you're getting the robots when you're getting introduced to everything. I actually think that's pretty funny because you have the robots that have obviously evolved their own type of personality, and they're getting their information about humanity, which has been wiped out by this point. They're getting that from like Wikipedia that's been edited, and it doesn't make any sense. But they're like, it's just very kind of like how it's almost like how Americans go to tourist destinations. And they just kind of like are very disrespectful. Like there's one point where they're taking pictures of like, irradiated skeletons. Like, smile, girl, you're on camera, and it's just like it's very much like, oh yeah, I could see they're making fun of like a certain type of tourist that goes to like sacred areas that are not meant for that. And I like the fact that the cats are like
the cats are smart.
The cats are smart. The cats have developed opposable thumbs. They don't need humanity anymore.
Yeah,
and it's just a very good introduction. Like that's probably one of my favorites.
I think it definitely sets the tone for the. I think it does a really good job at setting the tone for all of the ideas that the shows like explore. Like there is a bit of sci-fi there. There's a bit of like humanity is like being killed off, and then you get the silliness with this. Like it's when the cat starts speaking during it. They encounter this cat and like. The scene with the cat encounter, all 3 robots are staring, like looking at something. They're all on a couch and they're talking about what they're looking at in a way that implies it could be a TV, but then it's like you just see this cat tail and it's like, yeah, humans had electronic devices dedicated to sharing images and videos of this creature, and you've got like this cat just like, just stretching on a poofy thing in front of them, and then you learn that the cats can talk. They say that the moment the cats could learn how to use the tuna, like the can opener for the tuna, it was game over for the humans. I think I think it does a good job of kind of introducing the show.
It does.
Okay, what's your second? If we're going like top 3, top 3.
Second is probably Soul Sucker, which is the Dracula one.
Right, okay.
And it's a very Castlevania-esque TV show, not the game, animation. And it's, they're they're under the ground and they're hunting. There's an archaeologist and there's like a team of mercenaries. And they find Dracula under the earth. Yeah. And it's just a very, it's one of those ones where nobody survives. Yeah. But it's such a good animation and it's such good storytelling that I just love it. I think it's a really good kind of like little vampire short. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really well done. Like it's very gory and very graphic. Like it's, at one point you see somebody getting sliced in 2 and you see everything. It's horrific, but it does remind me a lot of the Castlevania TV show. Which if anyone likes that, they probably like the Soul Sucker. But I just like the fact that Dracula the whole time speaking in Romanian, and he's just like, and he gets blown up with C4 and he survives. Yeah. And then
a cat scares him off.
The cat scares him off because in mythology, vampires don't like cats because they are whatever, like satanic or something, so they can't feed on them. But yeah, it's a really fun. It's just fun. It's just fun. It's silly. It's fun. It's gory. It's very action packed and it's quick. But you feel like you get a whole story from it. So that's my second one.
I like how defined the characters are in that. Because you've got the researcher who's a little bit plebby and he doesn't quite he's just focused on his research. You've got this kind of mercenary captain who's the man of the hour, and then you've got his kind of 2 fellow mercenaries that are just like cheeky and they've got a quip about absolutely everything, and then they realize that oh shit, there's actually a vampire. There's is an Irish.
No, the vampires are real.
Yeah. Is it an Irish woman, or is one the woman is either kind of like London working class or Irish? I feel like I should know the distinction.
It's kind of, I think it's more Londony, and their name is Gary, so I don't know if they're...
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know if they're a woman, but their name is Gary, and they're very much pro C4 and guns. It's very, very fun. But it's just... everyone's characters are so well developed. Yeah. It is astounding to me as a writer that you can develop something so easily within 10 minutes for like 7 different characters. Like even the one character that gets, murdered immediately. You know his backstory already before he's gone. Like you have a reason to be like, oh shit, like he's gone. Yeah.
Right, so your third one. Can I just say, I thought that me and Joy would have the same favourites. She has proven so far that that's not the case. Third favourite? Yeah.
My third favourite is probably it's a toss-up between two of them. It's a toss-up between the spaceship that falls into like the spider web.
Yeah.
Or it's the one with the ant, the farmers defending their homesteads from the insects.
Okay, you go the farmer one, and I'll take the Beyond the Aquila Rift, because that's my favourite.
Yeah, the farmer one is, it's these kind of like country-esque, they're talking about stuff like getting ready, and you see this farmer going out. You think it's a tractor at first. Turns out it's a giant mecha machine, and he's trying to save his cattle from like these insectoid aliens. And they're all over the place. He's like, oh, this must be a raid. It must be terrible. And he's unable to save his cattle. So then he starts telling his friends, like, hey, there must be something happening. Get your mecha suits on. Let's go. Yeah. And it's basically the mother of all invasions happening. And they're kind of squaring up to just die. And they're trying to give their people time. Like they're trying to get people from all over the community to give them time to get into the bunker.
Yeah.
And you fully think it's like a grand last stand. And it's such a well orchestrated kind of like, the way it's set up, someone's going to go down, and you think it's going to be either the guy that's leading it, Joe, who's going to be leading it, who is like very rough and very kind of like no nonsense, or you think it's going to be the old grandma character who's just like, oh well, at least I'm going to die. But it's not. It's the one guy who's like, no, I built these machines for precision, and like it's a work of art. It's like the best machine ever. He sacrifices himself. He blows up his mecha to give them time to get away because he's been compromised.
Yeah.
And you think that everyone's dead. You think it's very like there's no hope. And you have the wives back at like the homesteads using their computers to try and like give them aerial support and to drop them ammo and like it's very high tech. Like you can see the cornfield out the window, but they've got all these like radars and like all sorts of, just a really like good like
if I was playing guns a video game, and stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of what I think what being inside like Mars survival game would be like.
Right.
And they get away. But you think that the main character's dead, but he's fortunately not. Spoilers. But where it could end on a kind of like, oh, like it's hopeless. All these, these aliens are going to keep coming, and they have a massive fight with this huge, like the kind of like the mother one, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful moment where the wife thinks she kills her husband because she launched a missile.
Yeah.
And you can see the look on her face where she's like, oh, I saved the entire colony. But I think I just killed my husband because he was holding it down.
Yeah.
And you genuinely feel devastated for her because it's for being like an animated face. It's like when when like the Pixar things, when the like that kind of like when the Pixar things start crying, you're like, why am I crying? It's pixels. Why am I upset? It has that level of depth to it. And then you find out that he survived. He's very, very broken. He's very beat up, but he does survive. And they go back to the homestead, and it's like, oh, well, we survived. And instead of being very grimdark and like, oh, the fight is relentless, they're just like, yeah, I think we can keep this community going. Yeah, I think we'll manage. Yeah. And that, to me, that's like a much more hopeful way of looking at that sort of existence. I really think it's making a commentary on the horrors keep coming and they don't stop coming, but we also survive.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of like, yeah, we can withstand this, if we work together, which I really like about that. There's no like one hero in that. It's everyone working together.
Yeah.
So that's probably my top 3.
Yeah, I really like that one on how it like kind of did the monsters. So the monsters are these kind of classic pincer. They want after the cattle basically, and they break through a barrier and they come and attack the cattle. And I think what like the ending of that when the camera starts to zoom out is probably where I think it's like I don't know, it just kind of brought it all together. You know, this was a microcosm story of like sacrifice for the community. Then it zooms out, and what you discover is that like on this planet, there's basically these giant, almost like shields around these communities, these green farming communities, and you see like all of the monsters like scaling this like shield dome on the planet, and then you see that the like as the planet kind of comes into view, you're going out into space. Like you see that there's multiple shields all over the planet, and I quite like that. Sorry, one sec. So yeah, no, it's definitely up there with one of the best. I'm like,
What are your three? What are your three?
See, my three is really difficult because like I'm currently looking at the whole list and I'm like, oh, I like that shit. I like that one. Fuck, I also
like them all. There's not one I dislike. That's the problem.
There's like, there's one I dislike, and it was the alternate histories Hitler one. I just didn't think.
Oh yeah, that's not that fun.
I just didn't think it was that. So it was like, want to see Hitler die in a variety of comically fantastic ways, and it was just like, I don't know, I just felt like it was like a kind of half-assed one. Like the animation in it's like great or whatever, but like the actual core idea was just meh. So I'd say my number one favourite, the one that like stuck in me because I think it absolutely nailed the kind of sci-fi space horror, was the Beyond the Aquila Rift one, which is like basically this crew of 3 are carrying cargo in a spaceship, and they plug in some coordinates and then go into cryosleep, and the ship, you know, blasts off into light space, and it looks like something went wrong with the ship's navigation system, or the coordinates were wrong, but they wake up and well, the guy wakes up first and he's a bit like out of it. And he wakes up the person next to him, who immediately kind of like freaks out, and then someone enters the ship, and it's this woman, Greta, who he knows. He had a relationship with her like 4 years ago on like a space station somewhere on another job, and he gets to talking with her, and they try waking up his crewmate again. Who wakes up and has a bit of a kind of freak out, saying that the coordinates couldn't have been wrong. Greta kind of explains that they've overshot the thing, and they're out in the far reaches of the system, as in if they were to go back now and go back into cryo, the Earth that they left behind is like 400 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's it, like over basically. Even if you went back, it would be 400 years to get back, and then the society you left completely different, all the people who are on it. So he kind of spends the night with Greta, and they have some pretty intense animated sex, Joy.
Me too.
I was like, okay, did it need to go to that extent? But they definitely did.
It adds to the horror, though, when you know what it is later.
Yeah, it sure does. So, yeah, he ends up, he
sorry, Frostpunk 2 just is, the trailer's up, sorry.
Oh, shit! Oh, amazing.
Sorry, I can't just see it in the corner of my eye.
It's like the moment you saw Steam, it's like, Frostpunk 2, let's go!
Yep.
Right, we'll finish the Aquila Rift and then we'll freak out. But they... so he ends up spending the night, wakes up next to her, and they try and get the crewmate back. Crewmate sees Greta again and absolutely freaks out, saying, "That's not Greta, I've never met her before." Straight up panic, and the crew member cuts Greta's neck with like a a bleed, and Greta starts to bleed, and then later on, when it's just the sort of main man and Greta again, he sees that the neck's completely healed, and he's a wee bit like, Frostpunk 2024, Joy.
I know.
It hurts so much. But then what ends up happening is he basically demands, he's like, what's going on here? Tell me. Because he thinks he's on a station being repaired. And Greta goes, look, I really, really care for you. I don't want to do that. I don't think you're ready, but I'll show you. And basically the whole facade disappears. The guy who we've been seeing ages considerably and becomes really malnourished, skeletal almost. He sees that his crewmates are both pretty much dead, and he looks around and he's in the ship that's been completely destroyed. We then get a zoom out and the ship is entangled in a space web. It's proper spider burrow in space. Like a
funnel web.
Like a funnel web. And he looks around and he sees the silhouette of this rather nice looking, I would say, female body.
She looks very voluptuous. She's got a perfect hourglass figure and
curves in all the right places. And then let's just say she steps out into the light, and it is this horrifying alien spider, as in everyone's jaw drops when she steps into view. It is all kinds of fucked up and vile. You know exactly what's happened because you've seen it in the kind of human form.
Seen them fucking. You've seen them fucking very graphically, and you know that the real thing he's been fucking is that. Yeah. And if you're into spiders, which I know some of Natalie's people are into here, that's fine. That's fine. Not for me.
No. Jail for 1 million years. So it basically ends with he basically goes back into his false reality. He screams in horror, and it cuts to black, and then it opens, and I think what the spider does is reset his memory of it somehow.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that when he wakes back up again, both of his crew members are dead. In the previous kind of dream, he could see both crewmates in their cryo chambers, but now both cryo chambers are blocked off as if they're dead. So I think she's just completely wiped his memory on that. And it's just, it nails the space horror. The whole it zooms out from the screen, and you see that the space station where the ship is getting repaired, it kind of does that glitch effect where it swaps between the funnel web that he's actually trapped in and the space station that his mind thinks he's in. And to me, it absolutely nails the kind of.
And the thing is, the spider isn't even malevolent. The spider is doing this so that, well, maybe it is. But the spider keeps saying, I love people. I love the people that get stuck here. I love the people that get trapped.
Yeah.
So it's some sort of psychic love vampire spider in space.
Yeah. I actually chose to read it as not malevolent because I think it makes it creepier. The spaceship just ends up tangled in this web, and the spider's okay, fuck it. Literally. But I was saying, I don't think the spider deliberately tried to catch the ship or anything. I think it's just
the ships are just flying into its web.
Yeah, and it's all kinds of fucked. It's really that one's probably stuck with me the longest out of all of them, just because that's peak sci-fi existential kind of horror, because he's trapped there, light years out, no chance of getting rescued, and that's the horror that awaits us in space. So my second one.
Second favourite.
This is really tough because I've actually got it narrowed down to like I've got like 6 that I would put in my top 6. I really liked Sunny's Edge. So this one this one starts off with the premise where there's like, it's kind of like an apocalyptic world, who would have thought? And in it there's like a society of like these underground fights that are held. People are able to like psychically control these giant monsters, and they fight in pits, like kind of gladiator arena, right? So there's like a team.
The animation's very Dishonored.
Yes,
like the style is very much like the video game Dishonored. I loved it for that.
Particularly the fact that, like, you see the British guy that's in it, the guy who's the aristocrat. He 100% is one of like the brothers that you kill in Dishonored.
The Pendletons,
yeah, like 100%.
Classic British villain.
But it's like these 3 fighters turn up to this kind of gladiator pit, and this British guy and his little, like, I don't know quite what the relationship is, but she's this, like, she's
implied to be like a sugar baby or like a kept woman type thing.
Yeah, like quite quiet, quite just, kept in. But he basically asks this trio of people, the one woman who, and I suppose like just kind of content warning here, there's a bit of sexual assault discussion, but the woman who controls the monster has undergone, she's
viciously attacked.
She was viciously attacked by this group who like cut her afterwards, and like she's got these very distinct like cuts and visual marks all over her face and all over her kind of body. And this evil, corrupt British guy asks her to throw the fight, and he'll pay her, it was like $500,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, absolutely fucking not. And her 2 friends basically end up arguing with the British guy, saying, like, this is what happened to her when she fights. She's fighting like that, never ask her to throw a fight, that kind of stuff. And the fight happens. Her monster, like the trio's monster, is this like quite, I kind of want to say like a cross between this like kind of lizard and like a really agile wolf. But
she calls it the carnivore, which I like.
Yeah, the carnivore. And it's like, it's got this big kind of like spear on its head, and it also has tentacles, which is like pretty cool. Like these kind of like pincers that come out and can like stab the enemies. And her opponent is this like basically giant gorilla bear type monster, very, very basic, and they fight. And that's pretty much like the core of the episode, is this fight happening. I would say that the fight is very reminiscent of the woman's sexual assault, because you can see bits where the bear kind of puts her up against like a wall and like traps her, and then she fights out. There's a bit right near the end where she's kind of like pinned down, and she uses like the head of her monster as this spear to just go right fucking through. Right fucking through the enemy's head, and that fight wraps up and she wins. And what happens at the end is they're celebrating their victory. The woman who controls the monster kind of notices the kind of kept woman, like just kind of eavesdropping a little bit, and she follows her out, and then this weird like seduction scene happens where the woman gets like all naked, and it's like, oh, I'm really attracted to your lifestyle and all this kind of thing. And just when they kiss, the woman, the kept woman, I'm gonna refer to her as the kept woman, I don't know how else to describe her, kills the woman who controls the monster.
Kills the fighter.
Kills the fighter. And like in this really fucking gory, it's like a spear, and it goes up through her bottom of her jaw, like straight through her head. Absolutely kills her, and then the British guy steps into focus, and it's like, oh, you couldn't throw the fight, yada yada. And the the kept woman basically stands on the fighter's face, like just basically like crunches it down, crushes her, and you can see like her fucking eyes pop out and all this sort of stuff. But then you notice that her she's just microprocessors. She's like a robot basically, and you then hear the fighter's voice on like the radios and stuff like that, and she just narrates that like, you see, my edge is like, it's got nothing to do with this body. When I fight, I'm fighting for my life. And that's when you discover that the fighter is actually in the body of the monster. And
because when she was injured, she got transferred into it, didn't she?
Yeah, and she kills both of them. One of which is really gory. One of the pincers goes right through the face of the woman who just killed her. And then you see the tentacles kind of wrap around the British guy, and then it kind of cuts to black. But I quite like that one. That one's good.
It's very good. It's a very good... I just love it because it looks like Dishonored. But it's such really good storytelling, because I was not expecting her to be the monster. I was expecting another like body to step out. Yeah. And she's actually piloting like other mechas of herself. But no, she's in the monster, which I thought was really good. She's in the monster.
And like, that's her edge. So like they kind of establish at the start of the episode that it's like she's the only woman that psychically controls. Like she's the only like female fighter, is how it's kind of portrayed. Sunny, that's it. And Sunny, like the whole thing is it's Sunny's edge. Her edge is that she's fighting for her life whenever she does it. So like the fear of dying gives her an edge over her opponents, which I think is quite good. So I'd say that's my
third favourite.
Second favourite. Joy, I can't narrow it down. You're going to have to help me.
Right.
So the one set in Asia, Good Hunting.
Oh, yes.
That's up there. The other ones I would say are Lucky 13, Zima Blue, and Secret War. And I don't know which of those are the best. We'll talk about all of them if we want, but
I think probably for me, Good Hunting.
Yeah,
probably for me, Good Hunting. It's got steampunk in it. It's got all sorts of like kind of that kind of it's almost like the Japanese horror where you have the spirits in it.
Yeah.
It's got a lot going on for it that I really like. I really like Good Hunting.
Right. Okay. In that case, we'll do Good Hunting because it's a good one to talk about. But it's basically what happens is kind of
pre-industrial revolution.
Pre-industrial revolution. Pre the British Empire fucking up Hong Kong. There's like a son and a father who's hunting like this Chinese spirit called the Huli Jing. The Huli Jing is like a beautiful woman who is also a fox lady, it's a kind of sexy fox. Yeah. And like it's funny because you kind of see both sides of that. Like you've got like the father and son have been like paid to get the bounty on this woman who's apparently bewitched men and kills them in the village, and then you hear from like the pup of the Huli Jing, like the kind of younger one, you hear that like this guy basically just pestered the ever-loving fuck out of this beautiful spirit, and the beautiful spirit had enough and decided to curse it, which is fair. So you've got this kind of thing where the mother Huli Jing ends up dying when the father kind of beheads her in this kind of horrendous sequence, and the son of the guy who kills her like basically hides the pup, or like doesn't mention to his dad that there's another Huli Jing out there. And like you fast forward a couple of years, the dad's dead, and the British have arrived and made everything a million times fucking worse.
Brought the railway with them.
but the son and the daughter of the spirit have kind of become pals. And he brings her food and stuff like that, and kind of like looks after her a wee bit. But he ends up leaving to go to Hong Kong because he's got this mind that like he can work on trains really well, and he does a lot of stuff on the trains there. And there's a bit in it where it like the arrival of the British and the Industrial Revolution destroys the magic on the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Because she can no longer transform into the
Hula Jing can no longer transform, and she blames it on the iron roads, which is the railway lines.
Right, and then he ends up spotting her in Hong Kong, where she kind of makes a passive comment about how she now does exactly what he said she did all those years ago. She bewitches men for money. She's working as a kind of courtesan, and he kind of protects her from all these kind of lecherous British guys that have her like cornered. And then it kind of goes a completely different direction, where it's like, yeah, he's working on the railways and he's like making the trains run, but then all these like automaton stuff comes out.
It goes full steampunk.
It goes full steampunk, and he becomes this kind of like master engineer, where like he's able to create like a rabbit that's like an automaton, and he lights a match underneath it and it bounces around like a bunny and stuff. I'm trying to think what else then happens, Joy.
It just shows you things getting more and more technologically advanced, and then the next time you see the Hula Jing, she shows up at his workshop and she has been turned into a robot. Yeah. And this is where I think it gets really interesting, because it's a very good commentary on the way British colonialism just decimated everywhere it went. Yeah. And you find out she's been turned into a robot because the mayor of the town in her words, he can only get hard for robots. Yeah. So he wanted the ultimate robot girlfriend, so he drugs her wine, and when she wakes up on the operating table, it's kind of almost like a really graphic operation scene where you see her being turned into this like mechanical woman with just her head left intact.
It's kind of like snuff film-esque. It's really nasty. Because she's like basically like she's entirely robotic. I think she's kind of maintained a little bit of her face, or I think
her head is still her head. It's still there, but from the neck down, she's just robotic. Yeah, and he can control her and keep her as like a statue if he wants, so that people can look at her beautiful mechanical body. Yeah, and she can no longer transform at all now. She was already cut off from it before because the world was too industrialized, but now she's just trapped in this mechanical body. So she seeks out her friend and is like, I know that you do these, you build these automatons now. Yeah. Help me. And he's like, well, okay, we'll fix it.
I want to hunt again is what she's going for. Because she's killed the mayor at this point. She's like...
Yeah, she kills him.
He forced himself on her, and he's kind of like obscenely grotesque, and she kind of climbs up him, very much like the overinflated caricature of like a evil lecherous guy. And she climbs like up his stomach and then grabs both sides of his like mouth and just like stretches, and that I think that's how he dies. But she comes to her pal, and he does a bunch of work on her. Go on, John.
He does her robotics so that she can turn into a mechanical fox again. Yeah. And she undergoes this full transformation where it's almost like it's where steampunk becomes more gas lamp in this case, because magic comes back into it, because through his ability to make her robotics better, she's able to transform back into a fox again. It's just a robotic fox. It's just an automaton fox. And he wishes her good hunting. And the last scene you see from this episode is a young woman being harassed on the streets, and the guy turns around and gets eaten by the mechanical fox. And it's like, oh, nice, justice. That's the way it should be. Yes,
it's really good. Like, I'd say that's definitely one of my favorites. I would say that's That's definitely my third favourite, and then the rest all kind of... I've seen it now. Now that we've talked through it, we're going to fit in the rest. For those of you who are still have like arrived and are wondering, we're talking about Love, Death, Robots, which is a series of like short animated episodes that all touch on various... On Netflix, touches on all different topics. Really, really interesting.
The Good Hunting one, the fact that it's only 10 minutes long destroys my brain.
We just talked about it for probably a longer, and
it's 10 minutes long episode. It's just like, how is that? It's just so well done.
Yeah.
I'm sick with envy. I'm just...
I also quite like The Secret War. I do think this is less, like, you don't need to think about this one as much. I just think it's quite an interesting story. And I would like to, like, I like it when sci-fi stuff is set in the past. There's a couple of ones like this that do it really well. I think in other seasons when it's talking about, like, you know, when there's something like horrible or sci-fi in like the medieval times or whatever. But this one's The Secret War. It's set during World War II, and it's like this, like a portion of the Russian military are in like Siberia, the depths of Siberia. It's snow everywhere. They come across this town where absolutely everyone has been like butchered. And it's like, it starts off really slow. They're going across the ice. Like there's ships that are like frozen in place. It's obviously super duper cold. And then they go into the houses and they find all these bodies that are just like ripped to shreds. And then they go into the forest to camp, and they find the monsters that have basically been like rampaging their way through like the kind of middle of Russia.
Kind of looks radioactive. It kind of like when they're talking about, oh, my people say it's cursed, it kind of looks like they're wading into like a radioactive wasteland from previous wars.
Yeah.
But we're not there in our history timeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a bit in it where it explains that basically after World War One, they wanted to create like an army that would work for so they do this kind of like a cultic ritual to summon these monsters, and they just fucking start killing everybody. But they're kind of, I don't know how to describe the monsters. It's quite weird because they're on four legs. They're your kind of typical like horror like hunting pack. They're hairless. It's kind of like Chupacabra, maybe.
It's very kind of like hairless werewolves. It's very kind of like weird, almost bipedalish shapeshiftery creatures, which they do kind of look like the shapeshifters in other episodes as well. But it's somebody's got a thing for alien-esque shapeshifting creatures on the animation.
Yeah, but it's like so they've not got like snouts like werewolves, but like their whole face is like this kind of like jaw that like opens up. It's creepy, right? And it's basically a kind of like, the whole story is just, there's not much story to it. There's a couple of distinct characters. They do this fight. You see a lot of people getting killed, and then these like the commander and like the rest of the squad stumble upon this nest, and they go, right, we're going to blow this nest up. So he sends in his demolition guys. They escape, and then they set off the bomb. But the bomb, instead of caving in the tunnel, it actually destroys the mountain and opens up like all of the tunnels. So like all of the creatures that were underground now just have direct access to the surface. And the commander kind of does a big stand your ground thing. He sends his son on a horse to basically be like, this is our last stand. We're just going to hold them off until you can escape. But yeah, just tell the generals to like direct some planes from Stalingrad and just tell them to bomb like the whole of Siberia.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, you don't even know it's his son until he rescues him at one point.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah. In fact, I think he only mentions the son as he sends him away on the horse. And
yeah, because he's like, no, father, I want to stay with you. And his dad's like, no, you're leaving with your guitar. And that was a really nice moment for me too, because you have a scene where a soldier's pretty much, he's been very badly wounded, he's possibly dying, and the general steps outside, and one of the men is like, oh, can you play that, gesturing to the guitar, and the son's like, yeah, but I shouldn't. He's like, oh, do it for your friend.
Yeah.
So he plays music, so they have this little bright moment of like camaraderie in their tent, and then the general comes back in and takes it away, because like obviously music can attract them. But I think it's a really nice touch that the son who plays the guitar, who does something to make people smile that isn't necessary, is the one that survives.
Yeah.
I really that. Yeah.
And he escapes, and he gets the job done, and the carpet bomb, the whole of it. Because like the last scene it's actually music from the kind of balalaika playing while the planes kind of soar overhead, and then you see all the monsters who are like passing around an arm from one of the corpses.
Yeah.
You just see them getting like blitzed, basically. So yeah, I quite like that one. I think it does. It's an interesting animation style because it's like hyper realistic to the point where you also know it's not real.
It's uncanny valley stuff.
Yeah.
It's there's one guy that I swear to God, he looks like Arthur Morgan from Red Dead 2. It is the same model, the same face, but he has a Russian accent.
Right. Do you have another favourite then?
I think we've already talked about all my favourite. Oh well, the one inside the world inside the refrigerator is good. I think that one's a lot of fun.
That's
Couple moves into a new apartment and they have like a refrigerator from like the 1900s. It's absolutely ancient, and they go to open it up to find some ice cubes, and they find a civilization inside. The guy pulls out an ice cube and it's got like a woolly mammoth with like spears stuck into it. So then they clear out the refrigerator properly and they find the civilization, and like for every like 10 minutes is like a century to them. So they get to watch this thing go from the Neolithic through to like the Industrial Revolution, through to the 1920s, through to the 1970s, 80s, present day, into the nuclear age. They wipe each other out with a nuclear bomb, and they, the couple shut the door thinking, oh my God. They don't want to open it again because they're like, oh, what if they wipe them out? What if there's no one left? But when they open it, you find that the civilization did survive, and they've advanced to like this kind of like space age sort of neural network type thing. And they're watching it with fascination, like, wow, this is the next step for humanity. And this giant ball of shining light happens. There's lights going off everywhere, like fireworks. And then it just explodes back into nothing. And they're like, wow, what the hell? And they're like, oh, they must have wiped, that must be the end of humanity. Like, the world started with a big bang, it ends with a big bang. Cool. So the guy unplugs the refrigerator saying, yeah, we'll clean it out tomorrow morning, use it for plant fertilizer or whatever. And then they open it the next morning, and it's the dinosaurs again.
Yeah.
And it's like the implication that...
early humans getting eaten by like a T-Rex and stuff.
It's basically like just evolution over and over and over again inside this little refrigerator. And it's they're like, because at the start they're like, oh, why would the landlord keep this refrigerator? Well, because the refrigerator has the entire cosmos in it.
Yeah.
It's just such a good wee short. It's just very kind of like, it satisfies the part of me that loves playing colony sims. Like when you start your own civilizations and you get to watch them advance. So it's that sort of thing that I like.
Because you like when they're spectating, like you see like towers and stuff getting built at like 4 times the speed, which is like how like in a city builder you can see things getting like built really really fast. It's exactly like that. No, that one's good. I suppose my other one that we've not mentioned is Zima Blue, the one with the robot and the the artist even. The artist
yes.
Yeah, so like
I was like, you're saying robot, that doesn't narrow it down.
this one's super visually distinct compared to the rest. It's like a very specific type of artwork, and it's told through it's told through the eyes of a journalist that's talking about this artist called Zima, who, like, started off, like, you know, she's almost recounting his story from, like, the beginning of his artwork, where he was doing portraits, and then he started to move to these, like, giant, like, landscape photos of, like, a planet, and, you know, he just keeps on making it grander and grander. And at some point when he's making these landscape portraits, he introduces a single, like, square of blue in the center of his, like, canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And over time that kind of grows and grows to the point where the whole canvas is blue. And then he starts, like, painting asteroids blue and, like, all this kind of stuff. And it's told in this, like, he's a sensation. He's like a is it international interplanet sensation?
Interplanetary sensation, yeah. But do you know what the style reminds me of? It reminds me of Batman the Animated Series. It's got that kind of Art Deco-ish Gothic animation style.
Yeah, there's a strong bit of Art Deco to him. Like, particularly the character Zima, who's, like, portrayed as this colossal... like, he's seen as like this colossal, like, guy who's basically augmented a lot of his body to, like, withstand all these environments. So he's went to, like, cybernetic clinics that are, like, illegal, and he's got, like, his whole skin replaced with, like, a dense polymer and all this kind of stuff. So this journalist finally gets, like, an interview with him, and is taken to, like, show his latest piece. And it's a swimming pool, and the swimming pool's got all these, like, blue tiles that's getting kind of marked around it. And the guy Zima basically tells the story of, like, there was a woman once who was really into robotics. She had, like, robots do tons of menial tasks around the house, and one robot that she particularly liked was the one that cleaned her swimming pool. And it's, like, just a little, like, polisher, and she, like, slowly, like, worked on the robot. The robot, like, she gave it a kind of, like, upgraded its intelligence, allowed it to process visual data, and, like, you know, strategize on how best to clean the pool. And she then passes away, and it goes through various owners, like, becoming more advanced. Like, people get it to cook and to clean and do all this kind of stuff. And it basically turns out that the artist Zima, who, like, for the whole episode we've been convinced is, like, a human who's changed and augmented themselves, Zima is actually a robot. And the final kind of reveal when he shows off the swimming pool, he jumps into it and then basically disengages all of his kind of high intelligence processors, and he sheds all of his augmentations and becomes the little robot who goes back to polishing. And it's just done in this really cool, nice, artistic way. That it's like, there's something quite nice about that. This robot that started in, like, the Zima blue is, like, the shade of blue that the manufacturer's tiles were. And that's it. And it's just, like, how this little robot, like, processed the world and made art about it. I don't know, I found it quite...
And then he goes back to his origins, which is nice. It's a nice episode.
It is a nice episode.
Last 20 minutes, do you want to talk about the ADHD stuff?
Sure, let's find out what I've got now. What other symptoms have we gone for?
Oh no, you were the one that said you wanted to talk about ADHD and content creation. You know what's really annoying, Joy? I should have fucking written it down, but I have no idea what I wanted to say on the topic. I did not have a fucking clue. I think I saw a post that you reblogged on Tumblr, and I was like, that would be really cool to talk about, because it's like ADHD is a doing disorder.
Yeah, and so it's like
and
it's like the kind of lack of dopamine and stuff. But like, fuck, it's
Because I've been doing.
Tell me about that, Joy.
So, it's called chasing your dopamine. And it can often seem as erratic behavior to some people, and it's, people who have dopamine deficiencies will often look for it in other places. For some people, it can look like, is Twitch frozen?
Nope.
There we go. It can look dopamine deficiency can make people do erratic things because you're always trying to make up for the deficit in your brain or the fact that your brain cannot process it. And for some people, that can make you look very scatterbrained. It can make you look very thoughtless. And the post we were talking about was basically like, it's just an inability to manage resources in your own brain. And it's really just this kind of, people always think of it as, ooh, shiny, distracted. And that's what it is, because the brain is basically trying to find things that will give it what it needs to function. And I think we do that very well here with the AyeSphere in a contained way. We follow the dopamine. We don't have planned structure so much as other places. I've seen some people. Yeah, I was talking to someone about doing a podcast with them coming up, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, when? And they're like, well, I'm booked out for the next 3 months, and we were sharing our screens, and she was scrolling through. She had scripts for all of her podcasts for the next 3 months. Scripts? And I was like, if I did scripts, and I'm like, if I did that, I would not have anything to talk about, because my brain would be like, okay, we did it. We wrote the thing. I don't want to do it anymore.
Scripts.
Yeah, that's when these people are doing it.
Fuck. Holy shit! This is how the other half works.
Yeah.
Like, because fuck,
This is the people that get sponsorships. That is what that is. To me,
yeah,
I would completely burn out doing that. Yeah. Even when it comes to novel writing, I don't necessarily like planning things too much, because I will get bored telling myself the story and then I don't want to fucking write it.
Yeah.
And because that's the problem I have with Hunger Pangs. I wrote the whole thing in the run-up to 2019 and thinking it would be published posthumously and it would be someone else's problem to edit. Spoiler alert, I survived what was going on with me, and I now have to fix the whole thing. And I'm going through it all and I'm like, this is not fun because I already know the story. So I really struggle with it. So I have to be very careful about making sure I don't get burned out on it and finding ways to make it new and fun again. And for me, that often means looking at it with fresh eyes and going, okay, well, this doesn't work. So how does the story evolve past this? And I get to retell the story to myself again.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention it kind of like that. There's a certain aspect of planning to do lots of things, which mentally it's like the dopamine of planning it has like already been done, so you end up like, yeah, I'm just thinking like there's lots of times where I've gotten really excited about certain stuff, and I've planned a lot of it out. Like I will spend like an ungodly amount of time with this specific, like world building, for example. If I've got like a creative idea, I'll absolutely go to town on that, and then it gets to like, you're excited to then tell people about it, even though you've not done any of the work for it. Like you've done a lot of the mental planning work in your own head, but that hasn't necessarily played its way out as planning for, presenting it. I feel like that. I feel that with a lot of my content, actually.
It's very. It is a real problem with people that have ADHD and other neurodivergences as well. That problems with dopamine processing, and it's that kind of, how do you avoid the burnout from that? And it's very difficult, and it's something that I'm currently having to deal with my own. I realized last week I was heading towards burnout, and it wasn't from this, it wasn't from anything else. It was purely because I've been doing administration work. I've been doing emails solidly for the last 2 months. And I basically use my Grammarly as a glorified word tracker now, because it tracks my fiction, it tracks my emails, it doesn't track anything else. I've written something like, what was it? 1 million.
It was over 1 million words.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up because I've got it in here. But I'd written over 1 million words in 6 months, and only 60k of that was creative stuff. The rest of it was just emails, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I hate everything, because I'm basically destroying myself.
Yeah.
Doing administration work, and I'm not getting to follow my dopamine. I'm doing things out of a sense of obligation, and there are things you have to do out of obligation, but for me this is not actually one of them. I just feel as though I have to, because people are asking me for my help and attention.
Yeah.
So I'm at the like I've been saying it for 2 to 3 years now, I need a firm boundary with this. I need a firm boundary with this. And I do set the boundaries, but then people keep pushing against them, and I don't reinforce them because I'm bad at that. And especially with health stuff, if people are asking me for help with like, a lot of the emails I get are people that have developed long COVID, and they've developed mast cell syndrome from that. So there's not a lot of resources, and I'm one of. I mean, there's a couple of us, but a lot of kind of like the popular blogs for mast cell are very pseudoscience. They're very heal yourself with this healthy milkshake type thing. So people are looking for actual science, and it is out there, but it's not easy to understand. So you've got people emailing my blog, they're emailing my email, they're using my editor email to ask me health questions, and I feel obliged to answer because I knew when I got sick 10, 15 years ago with this, I had no one to talk to. There were no forums for it. So I feel like, oh, this person's completely isolated, I need to talk to them. Well, they're not, because there are forums. Yeah. They just need to go into the forums, but they know of me either through Tumblr or from something else, and they feel as if I'm approachable, which I've tried to be, but it just, I don't, like, I copy paste things, like I have like an auto reply that I'm like, oh, here's my resources, and then they send me another email going, but I just want someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I have gotten to the point where I'm going, here are a list of therapists that are good with chronic illness.
Yeah.
Because that's all I can do now. Like, I can't do it anymore. So it's...
Yeah, there's been a sympathetic... Aye. I mean, there's been a sympathetic ear, which is, like, always nice. But, yeah, the moment someone's kind of asking over and above, like, you know, I need someone to talk to or whatever, then, yeah, you can't...
Yeah, it gets to me as well, because I understand. I don't begrudge anyone who on disability who makes a living, but a lot of the mast cell blogs, they charge you money to talk to them for peer advice because you can't give medical advice.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't like that. I'm always very careful with, when I do talk about things, I'm always saying follow with a doctor, follow up with a physician, follow up with a pharmacist.
Yeah.
But these people, they kind of do the whole talk to your doctor, but I'm still going to take money off you to listen to you talk. And I'm like, I am not a therapist. I'm not qualified to do that. So I don't feel comfortable with that. Again, it's difficult because I know they're likely on disability or that this is how they make their income. Yeah. But for me, it's more, I don't feel comfortable with that. And people always say to me, oh, I'll pay you money for your time. And I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah. The only money I want is for my fiction, which I can't get doing because I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So as much as I love everyone in my community, and as much as like I appreciate that people are looking for help, for me, I need to put down that firm boundary and be like, I'm not doing this for a while. I might not ever go back to it. I'm going to chase my dopamine for a bit. What does that look like? Oh, it's writing short stories for a bit to try and get myself back in the groove. Oh, it's doing the AyeSphere with on Sunday and talking about fun things because that will get me in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's you doing your chores first thing in the morning so you've got the rest of the day free.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. And I think you're right when it comes to, like, obviously you've got a fairly significant community of folk that there is this kind of like obligation to like look after them and stuff, but then there's got to be that kind of like, unfortunately there is that kind of parasocial bit where like you can't, like, you being a blog that they enjoy reading and engaging and interacting with, like, it's like it's not a service you purchase. Like I get like I always find it really difficult when people talk about my streams. Like, so there's this kind of like line that I suppose more of the financially motivated content creators go down, where it's like, at the end of the day, you're providing an entertainment service. And if you are not earning money from that service, then like these people are getting a bunch of free entertainment for nothing. And, you shouldn't do that. And like, that's never really the kind of attitude that I've like had.
It's always been community.
Yeah, community is the main focus.
Community is what I've wanted. And it's one of the reasons when people are like, oh, I'll give you money to talk to me about health stuff, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like that. No. And that's what puts me off a lot of the, the other stuff. the people that are in my position that take money, I'm like, that's not community. That's putting you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And, I don't.
They always talk about.
That's not my goal.
Yeah, they always talk about whether it's whether you're building an audience or building a community. That's the kind of two.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks back to like the content creators we were talking about earlier with like the Call of Duty operator skins. They've got audiences. Yeah. They don't have a community of folk. I mean, they probably have a community of bigots that they all talk to, but like
echo chamber of hatred. But
it's like they have these just audiences that they spit shit out at. Whereas, like, I like to think that I spend a lot of time talking to folk.
And that's the nature of being on Twitch. We make a point of not focusing on doom and gloom topics.
Yeah.
Because it's not good for our mental health, but we're also trying to protect our community.
Oh, sorry, you're seeing a nipple there. Fuck. I yawned. Or stretched. And you almost got a nipple. Sorry.
Demonetized.
Demonetized. Banned. I don't know what the rules
Twitch.
are against that. Sorry. Continue. You were saying something really serious there and I ruined it.
Can't remember now. Yeah, there's that kind of like the monetize every aspect of your life. That's a lot of the advice that I get as a content creator, and I'm sure you get that as well. It's the if you're, again, the idea of, if you're doing it for free, you can be doing it for getting paid. You should have hobbies that you don't get paid for.
And you don't need to necessarily aggressively monetize them. Like, I mean, if I wanted to seriously monetize my streams, I would be streaming Raid Shadow Legends and ruining my life. But that wouldn't be fun.
And I also don't really judge anyone who does take income from places. But there are times when I will look at things and go, you are a big enough content creator, you admit to having staff, you can do your due diligence whether this sponsorship is problematic or not.
I would love to have staff. That'd be amazing. Imagine all the shit I could do with staff. That'd be fucking awesome.
I have a virtual assistant who does 1 day a week for me. If I could get her for every day of the week, I would be unstoppable. She's my executive function for all the shit I don't want to do, but she keeps me on task, and I'm like, imagine what I could do if I could actually do this full time.
It's like,
I'd have to sell it. I'd have to do all the awful things I don't want to do, but that's the kind of like, it's as Blair likes to say, you could have a dedicated cat camera.
I could. Tundra's asking, what are you? You're perfect, is what you are, Tundra.
Buttered up is what you are. Yeah, but it's just it's a weird. I don't know. It's so weird because you have people that are very willing to exploit the hyperactivity of ADHD, but they're never willing to look at what is actually healthy for creators with ADHD.
Yeah,
and I know
what would be great is I was going to say what would be great is medication and a diagnosis.
Yeah, like I am at the point where I am considering begging my doctor, like, hey, I know I have a heart condition, but I need help. I need something that fix my brain, because like I just don't have the ability to focus. Yeah. And it's because I went through that severe I've gone through multiple stages of burnout. The worst was after finishing Hunger Pangs, the first book. I for a full year couldn't do anything.
You had a tough time.
Then I started feeling better, and then I got migraines for a full year straight. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to do the next book, am I? But this year I've been getting a lot more done. But it was amazing to me this week because I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday, I'm like, I'm going to stop answering my emails for a bit. Sorry, guys, you're going into the queue, or you're going into the auto reply. And within 2 days, I'd fallen back into, I'm going to write for fun. I got like 3 chapters of Sugar Vladdy ready to post. I got like a chapter of actual Hunger Pangs book 2 that I've been struggling for like over a month to finish. I got that done. And I'm like, oh, it's like I shouldn't be doing everything all at once. It's like constantly trying to hustle and grind is not conductive to actual productivity.
Is it really bad that with like 5 minutes to go, I've remembered what I wanted to talk about on ADHD?
You can go. I have time. I can hang on.
It's really just a quick one, but like one of the things I've been really, really struggling with recently, right, is finding a game or finding a TV series that I have been like really into, and I feel like I sit in this perpetual searching for something to enjoy, which has been a fucking nightmare. Because like, there's parts of me where I'm like, oh, I would really like to play that game, and on one hand, I'm like, I'm gonna save that for stream though, and that's another issue that we can talk about at another time. But like, I'm not going to stream this game because I'm not going to play this game because it would be good on stream, and like trying to find games that that are very much me. Like, one of the games that I really want to play is Jedi Survivor, and it's not fixed yet on PC, so I've just not been able to like play it at all.
I got my PC to play it, but my PC, I had to take it apart and let it cool down because it was so warm to the touch. I left a thumbprint in the plastic.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ! Okay,
it was melting. It was melting. So don't do that if you have a PC that's older than 1 year old.
Jesus. Okay. So I mean, like that's the sort of thing that I'm running into, and that, like, I've found it with TV shows as well. So like, you know, when you finish a TV show and you're kind of like, oh fuck, I don't really know what to do. Like, I've ended up kind of like dipping my toe into a number of things, and then they all kind of like, you know, it's like you know when you download a game on Steam and it's like it's a game you've maybe played before, but you kind of like hype yourself up to get back into it, and then you play it for 10 minutes and you were like, this is totally not what I was like hoping it would like,
it's not sparking the dopamine. It's not giving you like the. I mean, I literally say, oh, I've got nothing to play. My Steam library is like.
Yeah, my Steam library is like
hundreds of stuff over the years.
And like, to be honest, I don't think the weather's helping. Right, I'm fucking roasting all the time. Like, I'm just sitting here. I mean, you can probably tell as I say here, I am fucking roasting. I guess a shiny face, but like, yeah, there's nothing like, you know when you find a game like that you've played before, like, for example, I'm waiting on my brain going like, oh, Mass Effect, you love Mass Effect, let's play the Mass Effect trilogy again, and I play 1, 2, and 3, and that like consumes my time, and like that's it. Like, or like Dragon Age, or you know, like something that I can properly sink my teeth into. I've been searching for ages and I just haven't found it. I suppose it's like chasing that like dopamine is a bit of a chore, is something I'm a bit nervous about. But
yeah, I mean, it's the thing is as well, because you do it as part of your, like, I encountered this when I became a professional writer. Writing for fun became less appealing because it was also the part of my brain that does it for work. So I had to find other hobbies that were not, because I still enjoy it. I still enjoy doing things, but astute readers will notice that I have not updated anything not Hunger Pangs for the last 2 years because my brain doesn't want to, because it thinks writing is now work. Yeah. And for me, gaming, I think if I was doing it all the time, gaming would also become work, and my brain would be like, we want to do something else. You know,
this is also a wee bit my worry about like also working in the games industry, is that like I play games at work to like capture footage and like do stuff like that, and it's like I end up just kind of existing permanently in this thing. So yeah, I'm like, maybe I'm gonna try, like, I've applied for partner, fingers crossed, right? Yay. It would be wonderful. For any of you who don't know, I successfully made Path to Partner the achievement. We fulfilled the 3 criteria and I got to write my application and I've submitted it. I may get rejected, but I am hoping that I don't. But like, if whatever happens when I hear that decision, I may or may not take a bit of a break. Me and Jessica are actually on holiday like next week, so I'll be out for like a couple of things. But it's like I'm kind of hoping that they accept it, because then I can be like, I have been accepted. I can now chill for a little bit, and then we can kind of like get back in, because I do think I need to try and make that distinction a wee bit more. I think another thing recently that's happened is that like I get sent quite a lot of games now, which I didn't before, which is great because I get to play so many awesome games and I don't need to like spend £1 million on them. But it also means that I have a lot of games that I kind of need to show off on stream, so I'm gonna try and like dial it back a little bit, so I'm not just like chasing like, okay, this is the next showcase, because we were really enjoying like Killer Frequency last week. Last week was really good fun, and then but I've got a demo. I've been sent a copy of like Mask of the Rose. There's other stuff that I need to show. So yeah, it's either up my streaming days so I can showcase more stuff, or I do whatever, and of course I've got to kind of balance that. So that's my gripe with everything at the moment. But yeah, I think
it's valid. I think when we live in a culture where you're told to monetize every aspect of your life, I think it's fair to want to push back against that and to actually go, no, actually, I'm taking time for myself and to do what I want to do. And it is difficult because you can feel obligated. Like for me, it's like, I remember a couple of years ago, I was like, I can't stop posting because if I stop posting, people won't buy the book. And I mean, for anyone that's not aware who's listening, I was literally dying at the time. I had an undiagnosed disorder that was slowly killing me. And I was still putting in 80 hours a week of work.
Yeah.
Because I was convinced if it went away, I'd never get it back. And 5 years later, people are still here and they're still telling me to take a break. So, like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you can slow down. The opportunities are still going to be there, but they won't be there if you're not there to take them. So slow down, take things at your own pace. There will always be other opportunities. You don't get one shot at things.
That's fair. That's really good advice for everyone else in chat. I will be ignoring it completely. I'm too far gone.
Manifest in your house like snakes.
Save yourselves. Right, I think that we can maybe wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much to everyone who's listening on the old podcast front. That was a very sporadic episode, but we hope you enjoyed our ramblings.
We were chasing dopamine. That was what we were doing.
Go watch Love, Death, Robots.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are in Twitch chat, do hang around. We will be talking for a wee bit before we head off. So thanks very much for those listening on the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.